I'm gonna show you who I am. Now you get to decide if this is what you want to watch.
But I think some people are afraid of that because, like we always talk about, the abundance and scarcity mindset. If you don't feel like you're enough, you're gonna be afraid to walk into a situation and be like, take me as I am or have nothing at all. You know what I'm saying? If you are afraid that you won't be loved, then you ready to tap dance and do whatever any type of entertaining to keep this idea of love. Because it ain't love.
Of course.
Somebody that really love you don't want you to detach from yourself, your well-being. You know what I'm saying? But you're right. You have to have one of those, like, take it or leave it mentalities. But that takes big balls. That takes knowing you're enough.
Practice.
Yeah.
Practice.
Yeah. And then it also, like, you can't have a loser or a lost mindset.
When you can help others, and you're in a position to do so, help. But don't forget to put your mask on first and be sure to fill your cup so that you have something to give. Because if you don't have anything to give, what sense does it make to give somebody an empty cup? You know what I mean?
Romy Mac.
What has life taught you leading up to 40? Well, life itself has taught a lot leading up to 40. I'd say number one, just because you believe you're doing things the right way doesn't necessarily mean that it is for the people involved. Being that right and wrong is merely all perspective based on what you believe in. You know what I mean? And that's just my own personal thoughts on that. And what I've learned is that doing what's best for you, there's no harm in such. And that to be responsible for others and look after others, putting others before you is a recipe for disaster, and you're teaching people how to treat you. And there are certain moments where a man does put like his family before, essentially before him and all that stuff, because that's what comes with like protection and all of that goes. But at the same time, learning as a man, nothing goes before the purpose. And any time that you put something in front of the purpose, life has gone another way because of it. And it's a lesson learned, just a lesson learned. But also leading up to 40, just to really live in the present moment. Like living in the present moment matters so much, and not allowing things that happened the day before, years before, to kind of take you away from living in the present, and just sitting in years and years of depression on the simple fact of you wish you could have changed how things went, and life not going the way that you see it, because that's not how the life works. Life does not go as you wish it to all the time. Life is just life, you know. And there's things that happen in life that we really do wish that we could change, or wish it wouldn't have gone that way, or wanted something better, something worse, whatever it is. But life showed us every time that it's life. That's it. Like what you see is what you get, and definitely just putting effort into oneself, and as far as how to be a lot wiser, so that you are not quick to be angered by things that happen in life, angered by people, and they're understanding that when you give anger to whatever, it becomes your master. And it's tough. It's tough learning how to channel said anger, especially like if you never learned how to even use it in an effective way. I'm not talking about blowing up at people or shutting down, completely. That's pretty much the polar for me, is what I've learned for myself. But to actually learn effective ways of recognizing when you feel that anger, to embrace that anger, breathe it out, and not project that anger onto anybody around you, and especially the person who might have even caused you to have said anger or want to have said anger, because it's a choice response. And understanding that that's what that is. It's a choice response. Getting to 40, your goals. Set goals, honestly, and knowing where your ship is headed. Things run a lot smoother when you're out there with just, you have no idea where you're going. You end up going in circles. Literally, you go in circles. You repeat the same patterns, and before you know it, life passed you by. And owning up to errors in life, things you could have done better. Looking back in hindsight, I mean, I believe we all can, looking back at our lives. But like 40's been a journey. It has. It's been very interesting. Giving grace to everyone. You know what I mean? It's easy to say giving grace to family, but give grace to everyone. And understanding that everyone is human. That's it. Everybody's human. Everybody's going through a battle that others don't even know about. And if we recognize how much people are projecting their lifestyle, their beliefs, the way that they see things onto each other, we wouldn't take things so personal. But be mindful enough to know that you want to live your life the way that you want to, without harming anybody, that is, And it took some time, I'm still in the process of doing so, but learning how to live my life for me and not for anybody else, in a sense of like, living for others, trying to gain said, validation from this particular group of people or this person, whatever the case may be, just staying with it and going after what you're after. That's why it's important to set goals. And then also live long enough to become a hypocrite. One day you might believe this thing, and next thing, you might mature. You'll mature, and then you believe something else. And don't let anybody try to attack you for doing so, for learning. That's part of the growth. Judging, as I would say, Charlemagne the God says all the time, if you were to judge Malcolm X from chapter 3 of his life versus chapter 15, you're going to miss a lot of things, especially the impactful side of them. You got to allow people to go through their struggle, go through their journey, and understanding truthfully that nothing anyone does is about you. And that's a very prominent gem that I've held on to the last 5, now almost 6 years, of just dealing with humans, right? And trying to pinpoint, why did that happen? Why did they do this? Why, again, making you stop talking like a victim and just looking at things as an observer. And when you can see shit from being an observer as to the victim, life is happening to me, and then changing it to life is happening for me, it'll make sense why everything that you went through happened, and in that order. Not to steal that from Mama D from Love and Hip Hop, in that order, but like just seeing life, man, as it is, and just being grateful for, like I said, the time that's here, the time you have of just being around people that you value, and understanding that there's an unwritten timetable with the people that are around you. You never know what may happen. I mean, you grow up and you outgrow one another. You outgrow family, you outgrow friends, you outgrow the job, you outgrow habits, you outgrow a whole lot of things. But be sure to, like these lessons getting to 40 definitely taught me to just live in said moment while it's there. And you're gonna have some, have some great moments, and there's gonna be some that you're not so much proud of, or it was a challenge to kind of experience those moments. However, they all play a part of the story. Like, you don't get to just, what we do on social media is let's like highlight the highlights, instead of like including the entire story, everything, the setbacks, the overcoming those setbacks, facing adversity. All these things play a part in your story, and we all have one. And that's the beauty of it. We all have one, and 40 taught me a lot in, I say, friendship, right? Friendship with those that you've known since you were kids, and seeing how you're able to weather set storms, go through difficult conversations, and still be here to to still respect each other's differences and move forward, and watching watching people grow. But 40 has been getting to 40 is it's interesting, and obviously I'm not there yet. It's got a couple more weeks before September 20th hits. But I mean, it's been great. I've learned so much, especially like in the last 5 to 6 years. Just starting the search of wanting to just learn, right? Like being very conscious on specifically learning this thing here, dealing with like God, the universe, spirituality, and all that stuff. It's taught me so much in the last 5 to 6 years than I would say anything I've had prior to that. And detachment, and really learning like detachment and how powerful that can be. Detachment and indifference, and recognizing that, not taking things personal, right? And observing, and remember to observe and not absorb when others project whatever that is. You know what I mean? I mean, hell, even me, when I speak on things, that very well could be me projecting my view of the world onto others. And the beauty is that you have a mind of your own, and whether it's either you agree with it or you don't. But it doesn't have to mean anything more than that. You can just decide whether that works for what you're doing in life, or if it doesn't work for what you're doing in life. And I spent a great deal of my life trying to live right, if you will, like trying to do what I thought was the right thing and all that shit. When you learn about trying to do the right thing and doing right by people, you recognize how many people are really focused on themselves. And that whole time I was looking at it as if, damn, they're in the wrong because they're so selfish. But based on how my own life experiences, I was teaching everybody that I came second, right? So perhaps it's not a right or wrong thing. Perhaps it's just merely perspective of putting yourself first, not putting yourself first. And there are gonna come times where you do put yourself first, and rightfully so, and it would be beneficial for you. But there's also times where you put others before you. And that comes in the part of like leadership. I say there's plenty of parts and times in leadership where you're gonna have to withhold your own selfish needs for the greater good of the group itself. Finding that balance. And 40 has taught me many moments where you had to learn from being extremely selfish to learning how to work as a team, to knowing when to lead, knowing when not to lead, understanding when it's your kingdom and when it's not your kingdom, understanding when when it's your place to speak, understanding when it's your place to just listen. And and when to respond and not to respond. It's so many, like I said, so many lessons have been learned leading up to 40, which I'm very grateful for. And I look forward to whatever comes after this. I won't put any time thing on it. Just grateful for the present day and being able to wake up and live another day, and make the most of it to the best of my ability. Like I said, without doing your best, without projecting onto others, but doing what I want to do with my life. Essentially is what I've been aiming to do. But when you can help others, and you're in a position to do so, yeah, help. But don't forget to put your mask on first, and be sure to fill your cup so that you have something to give. Because if you don't have anything to give, what sense does it make to give somebody an empty cup? You know what I mean? But 40, it's been a great, like I said, it's been a great ride. Very grateful to get to within reach of 40. Again, not there just yet. But, by the time this show comes out, it's just about a week, a little bit of a week, maybe, before reaching that time frame. But I'm really just grateful for life. I mean, I know 40s is one of those like landmark years and all that stuff, but I'm just grateful, honestly, each day. To me, each day is very valued and valuable to me to be able to come forth on, this platform and just speak my mind, and being grateful for those who sit there to listen, to set mind with an open mind. And you know what I mean, without judgment and all that stuff, because that's really what all this is about. One of the my favorite quotes is, "If you judge, you won't understand. If you understand, you won't judge." So, working on that's something to absorb. Absorbing that information and retaining it, and minding the fucks you give. Yeah, being very mindful of that. But yeah. Very grateful to make it to 40. How do you deal with those who try to twist the narrative of the content you do? Well, I have nothing to prove to them. I mean, they're entitled to their opinion as far as like what they believe what the content is to them, because it's really just about their own life. But they don't get to speak for me and decide what that means, as far as what is shared and what it means coming from me. I mean, because if you're asking for my opinion on things, which is, the topic of discussion on each episode, that's coming from my own mind. Anyone's allowed to have, their opinion. You know what I mean? Their opinion is no more important than mine, is it? But, you're entitled to have your own opinion. But what I won't have is anybody speaking for me and try to tell me what the fuck I do. I'm responsible for what I say. I'm not responsible for how you felt, behind it. You know what I'm saying? Because that's solely about whatever you've gone through, whatever you're going through, that decide your interpretation of what's being said. But, as far as like the manner in which things are, essentially like delivered, yeah, I get that delivery matters for sure. But as far as the content itself, I mean, this platform is more so about healing, upliftment, if anything. And that's where I stand. I stand by that. I stand by the fact that I'm all about just putting that effort into using experiences that I've gone through to kind of shed light on what others may have gone through, and pretty much all learn together. You know what I mean? And seeing things from different perspectives so that we can move forward in a different light by chance. So yeah, so when people have issues with like the content of the show, I mean, I think that comes with the territory. I mean, I'm not above criticism anything else. Saying I if anything, I take I I'm flattered. I'm flattered that it's even being talked about, honestly, and I think that's the whole purpose of it. For me making the content, was really creating a conversation. Where I have issues is when, there's this whole thing of judgment that comes about, and when people want to be judgmental, because that's really not the point of this, by any means, to come off judgmental in the slightest. That give perspectives on things, but now I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong. That's one thing. I'm very adamant about that, to not tell somebody that they're wrong about something when it has something to do with their life. You know what I mean? I'm in my own world, so I just share my world and thoughts on the world that I perceive to live in. When I do speak on things that are on this, like I said, on this platform. But I really think it's dope when it's brought to my attention that someone has a necessarily negative connotation, or received a negative connotation from the show. They're clearly, I would say, they're clearly not listening to the show in entirety, because that's not even the energy that I put out. As far as to tear down anything or anyone. I will give a perspective on things, especially, obviously when I speak on women operating masculine, and then our men operating feminine, and vice versa, and all that stuff. But I will never tell you that it's wrong for you to do it. That's on you. It's just a preference. I don't want it for me. That's where I sit with that, and I stand by that. And so with the content, and just trying to find new ways to spark conversation, to spark the minds of those who do watch the show. I do my best to do such. I do my best to try to research what I've learned already during the week. I'm constantly learning something. I'm not gonna say I have it all figured out, because I'm a student forever. But when I sit with those lessons, those gems that I learned during the week, I do my best to try to figure out what questions would be beneficial to kind of expound on that on the platform. I think it's just something that comes with the territory. You know what I'm saying? I've seen many people who set out to do good be criticized by their peers. And again, we're not above that. Not above being criticized by others. And it's just, whatever you believe is the truth. So it's no point in trying to talk somebody out of what they already believe. And you can only just accept it. That's truly all it is. It's just allowing people to have their own mind when they speak on things. But like I said, a lot of time, depending on what it is, I'm either smiling or laughing about it. Just the fact that it's even being recognized, because I know how I started doing this whole thing. So to have the few times throughout doing this show and content that I've had the certain feedback where the person's coming from and it just sounds like a person's coming from pain, speaking on it. And I'm just thinking that there's no way that you possibly believe that this platform is all about tearing someone down. That's not, to me, it's nothing but inspiration. I do my best. I don't get off on tearing people down anymore. You know what I mean? When I was younger, for sure, I didn't know any better. But now, for me, it's all about upliftment, healing, revealing to heal, accountability mirror, like what David Goggins does. If anybody I criticize, I probably criticize me more than anybody else. And holding oneself accountable. But I find it to be enlightening. You know what I'm saying? When you do get certain feedback, and just and identifying what's being said, separating the emotion from it, and taking the logic from what's being said. Is there truth to it? And it's either the truth or it's nonsense. And if it's not the truth, then don't be bothered with it. But the ego, the ego can be fragile. The ego can want to respond to certain things but it's just recognizing what you give your power to, your energy to. And, when somebody tries to give you a gift and you don't want it, it goes back to sender. And it's just learning to refrain your ability to react and learn how to pause and respond. So when people speak, whenever that happens, if somebody speaks ill on the show, I send them positive and healing energy. Honestly, whatever they're battling is bigger than what they're attempting to project onto me, and I just wish them well. But I mean, that's essentially how my thoughts on anyone that has an issue with like the content of the show. Favorite car that your parents had growing up? And my favorite car that my parents had growing up would probably be it was this brown Fifth Avenue that my dad used to drive when we were in Pax River, and then once we got to Virginia, Suffolk and whatnot, that's when mom would start to drive that. But it was my favorite car because of all the memories that it had with me, my mom, and my brother just riding around, whether that be going to the commissary, us like putting shit into the cart. We weren't intending on eating it. It was just popular at the time. Just a bunch of, whatever we saw on TV, just trying to put that in the cart, or driving to my grandma's house, going to church in it, and just riding around anywhere. It was just, it's not so much the car itself, but just the experience of being with those that you value, being with those that you love. But if there was any car that stood out to me the most from what my parents had growing up, it would definitely be the Fifth Avenue. How would you say that you benefited from trauma? Well, I benefited from it in the sense that it's made us all who we are to present day. Whatever form of trauma, I'm not gonna put it big or little or anything like that. So whatever form of said trauma that you might have experienced has made us who we are today. And you don't get us today without going through whatever the fuck we've been through. You know what I'm saying? If I haven't gone through what I've been through, I don't know if I'm doing this platform. You know what I'm saying? That would, in hopes, using what some of us have gone through that we can relate to and try to look at it in a different light. So I think that's the benefit. I think that's one of the benefits of it, of just not being victim anymore, not telling the story, changing the way you tell the story, and not telling it as that of a victim. If you've been following this show from the beginning, when it was on the old J.E.T.Sense Podcast Central page, like if you watch from episode 1, you can see the shift in, I would say 4 or 5 years ago, from me talking about things I've experienced to now, from being the victim to being the victor, or not even that. It's not important being recognized. It's just understand that you experienced something. It's something that you got to experience, and learning how that indifference is a superpower, right? Like if you were programmed to respond a certain way to this thing, you're going to continue to get that same result. And we've been programmed to feel like to be victims. I believe in some cases we've definitely been programmed to feel victims. I've been hurt, somebody's got to come and save me type thing. It's like a child with a parent. And as you get older, especially being a man, no one's coming to save you. Like you're just meant to be there, right? And there's going to be times where people are going to do things that's not so pleasant for you, and that's where boundaries come in. Now you can respond to said boundaries. You can respond with your boundaries, or you can just remove yourself and not be involved with it. You know what I'm saying? Just not even give it energy, not even give it response. And I think that's what a lot of things I've learned from like that benefits from trauma is knowing the power that you have. Like, you give everything in your life power just by your response, your voice, your presence is that powerful. And you don't have to give anyone anything. You owe no one anything. And seeing how important your voice is, your gift, every one of us, you know what I'm saying? We decide, you know, as humans, that what we want to give our time to. And I think that's the beauty of it. And, you know, if you go through trauma and you were in a position where you couldn't get away from it, because maybe it happened when you were, you know, like living with your folks, living with family, grandma's house, cousin's house, uncle's house, aunt's house, whatever the house might have been, where you were in a position to where you could get away from that. And it's tough when you just get older and, you know, the body keeps score, right? So you see yourself as, like, in that moment when trigger, you go back to that age where you experienced said trauma, and you don't even recognize that you're acting like a 13-year-old or a 10-year-old or a 15-year-old, and being able to hug that inner child, right? Hugging your inner child, reminding them that they're safe now, and that adult you is built to last, built to take on whatever's happening in the present moment. But there will be times when that inner child does try to take over. But the benefits of that is recognizing strength and what you give power to. If you put the impact of whatever that moment was that you deem to be traumatic, and I'm not taking anything away from it, because you know, trauma is in various ways, and I'm not here to state how small or little something is. What I'm saying is what we're allowing that incident to have power over us, man. I'm saying the incident has happened, and if you're fortunate enough to have people around you that can comfort you and console you, you're very much a blessed individual. But there are some that feel like they don't have that, and it's nothing but them in their own mind. And we can really find ourselves in the dark spaces when we feel like we're so alone, right? You feel like you're just so alone. But with the right amount of knowledge and practice daily, in and out, we can learn how to just accept the fact that this thing happened, right? This incident happened. I'm not speaking solely on just that. That was just an example. But being able to look at, all right, this shit happened to me, but I'm not gonna let that be, and I'm not gonna let it define me. I'm gonna go through shit. I'm gonna have moments where I spaz the fuck out, where I think that somebody's trying to do harm to me, but I'm still gonna push forth. And I believe that's one of the benefits of trauma, is showing you how strong that you are, what you're able to endure and still be here to this day. Now, when you have moments where you relapse, or, you know, or go back to when that incident, whatever that incident happened, have grace on your, you know, for yourself, and still move forward as much as you can to try to overcome said feeling, said emotion, and do your best to find people who welcome you with love. You know, again, being around people who speak in love, live in love, and do not judge you for going through said incident. You know what I mean? And just being able to be a place of peace. And there's people, you know, there are people who show kindness. You know what I mean? And you're able to have that place of safety to be like, okay, I went through this thing. I don't necessarily have to even say that I went through this thing, but I just feel safe right here. And I'm able to sit with this pain and just feel the healing of being around loving individuals. And if you're fortunate enough to have one place where you can do that, let alone having multiple people in your life, you're very much a blessed person to do so. But but like I said, benefits of trauma truly is like overcoming so many things that was sent to hurt us, to keep us in pain, to keep us in a space where we thought we couldn't move forward. But now we have the tools to do so. And that's the great thing about knowledge and just experience and saying that I'm not going to let this destroy me. I'm still here, so I can still get up and do my best to move forward. If it means, it's not a speed thing, however long it takes to kind of get over, as long as you don't sit and, as long as you don't sit in it, but you move forward. But, that's just some of the stuff I think I've definitely benefited from trauma. You know what I mean? I don't make myself out to be like something. I'm definitely not a victim at all. I'm just human. And we're people, and all we do is, a lot of us, we go through shit and then we project it onto others. And it's just remembering to not make it about us, even if it's directed toward us, and do our best to send positive and healing energy to whoever that individual was that projected their pain onto us. I think that's what, I truly believe that's what, that's how I benefited from it. It's just understanding that nothing anyone does was about me, and that I wasn't unlovable, and I think that's where a lot of us thought at that point in time, when the whatever happened to us was projected onto us, that we were unlovable, that we weren't good enough. And that's what that's another thing I've learned, is that we all are good enough. You know what I mean? It's all a mental game. But for anybody going through anything, you know what I mean, I hope that, this topic didn't, trigger you in a sense of like tearing you down or anything, like making you feel bad or anything like that. That's definitely not the case, but just to recognize it so that we can essentially heal from it and move forward the best we can. But that's essentially it for this episode. I appreciate everybody for listening in, for if you've gone this far listening in, do me a favor, just click like on the link, whether that's YouTube, Facebook, or or send a review on iTunes and Spotify for listening on that too. But this is Romy Mac, and I'm out. Good night, kids.